One. Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint Germain family. We have a unusual guest for the first time ever. We have Red and Blue with us here, a Parisian. Welcome, Red and Blue.
Thanks. Hey everyone.
So, I was scrolling around on YouTube, like searching PSG and so on, and I found your channel. And
Yeah,
the first question I have to you, you're native ethnic French, right?
yeah,
So, what was your decision? What did you decide to talk in English instead of French? Well, that's my first question.
yeah. Look, so I live abroad, and for me, I've seen over the years, more and more PSG fans from around the world, people wearing the jersey on the street, and ultimately, like it's really difficult for people to find quality PSG content. And if for me, like I listen to French stuff, videos, podcasts, there's literally like millions of stuff all over the internet, but in
Yeah,
English, there's really not that much. And if I look at the French side of the fans, a lot of people in Paris, they sometimes they complain a little bit. They go like, oh, like all of the new fans who follow Messi, but they don't know anything about
yeah,
PSG. All of the people from Korea who are just here because of Kang In Lee, but like they don't really know anything about the club. And at the same time, like if we don't make the effort to give people the information and the content so they learn, then like
yeah.
we need to do our part, and like that's what I'm trying to do, really.
True, true. Are you from Paris as well, or Parisian?
Yeah, originally from Paris. I grew up one suburb over from Parc des Princes. So
Oh,
like in my youth, I used to go to Parc des Princes and just walk back home at the end of the game. So yeah.
so how long would you say you've been a PSG supporter then?
Yeah, I started. I remember my first game was a PSG Strasbourg in 1993. So like I started like PSG was on top of Europe. There was the heydays of the Wea and Ginolas and the Rai.
Yeah, yeah.
I went through like glory days in the 90s and all of the paints in the 2000s, and then like all of the Qatar era. So yeah.
So, so yeah, how do you feel? Because there are obviously some PSG fans in France who I don't know look a bit negatively at the QSI acquisition. Maybe
Yeah.
because what Qatar are doing as a country or something. How do you see it? Like we've had, I think Canal Plus as owners
Yeah,
before. I
yeah,
think we had
yeah,
some Americans before who were
yeah.
not good. So
No.
why?
So we had like Canal Plus in the 90s, which was great because it was like the TV channel wanted to create a spectacle around the French league in general. So they were very happy to pump money into PSG. Colony Capital, the American, was an investment fund, so they were just here to try to make money out of it, which is next
Mm,
to impossible, making money out of football. So that was rough. And yeah, look, I think after last year, like there's not really anyone in Paris who's complaining
sure,
about
yes,
Qatar
yeah.
anymore. But yeah, early days, I mean, I think like your club changes so much. Like overnight, we went to like being one of the top teams in the world, and I guess people were a bit worried that they were going to lose their club a little bit. And so like it takes some time for people to get comfortable to realize how things are going. And yeah, at the same time, like the price of ticket in the Parc des Princes is way higher than it used to be. Like it
Yeah.
didn't used to be difficult to find tickets. Now it's next to impossible. So there's stuff like this. If you're a long time fan, like yeah, it'd be a little bit like annoying, I guess, in some ways.
So it was so PSG. It was more of a culture club for maybe Parisians at that time. Now it's becoming more of an international club. But
Yeah. So
those same fans want to win the UCL and everything. When you win the UCL, you become international. You grab
mm,
the eyeballs of everyone in the world.
yeah. Yeah, and yeah, look, I think it's funny because as long as I can remember, there was always talks about, we need a bigger club in Paris, and it's crazy that such a big capital like Paris in Europe doesn't have like really a
Yeah,
tier one club that can play in Europe and so on. Obviously, the fans have been wanting that forever. And throughout the 2000s, like we held ourselves together, just thinking back of the 90s, and enjoying, the year or two where we have Ronaldinho and the year or two where we have actually good football happening. But it was the exception and not the norm.
yeah,
And then, yeah, like the Qatari arrive and it changes everything. And I think, truth be told, like it took also like I think it took them a while to really like understand the history of Paris and kind of find the right way of respecting it and building on it. I think early days it was great, like I loved it, but you know, you see a player like Zlatan come in and he's like, yeah, PSG before me was nothing, and it's funny because it's Zlatan and you know what he means, but at the same time, like if you've been supporting the club for 20 years, you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's not quite true, you know, like there was stuff before as well.
Yeah. True, true, true. So what would you say is your favorite moment as a PSG fan? Maybe apart from the recent Champions League victory.
Yeah, let's not talk about last year. I think for me, look, I'll reach back into the memory box because I think, you know, like that's for me, that's where like the big moments were. I think for me, like, yeah, the big European nights in the 90s. I'm actually planning on doing a video like in the next couple of days ahead of the Barcelona game about like we played a quarter final of the Champions League against them. I think in like 94, if I'm correct,
Yeah,
where we beat them at home 2-1 in the return and we qualify. And, you know, it's the heyday of Barcelona in the 90s with Cruyff was the coach, Luis Enrique and Guardiola were on the pitch. And yeah, back then it was like, you know, homegrown player like Vincent Guérin scoring a goal. So a different era, but I think in terms of emotions, it was just like, yeah, special moments. For me, I was younger, I was a kid, I was just getting into it. And, you know, that's the moments where like you become a fan for life all of a sudden.
yeah. We also had I think a comeback versus Madrid around
Yeah,
that time in the
yeah.
90s, where they
Yeah, so I did a
beat
video
us
on that.
Bernabeu and we came back.
Yeah, I did a video on that. Like that was one of the first ones that I did. It was 93. That was the UEFA Cup, so like the old Europa League.
Yeah,
And we play Real Madrid in the quarterfinal as well. So at that time, we went to the semi-final in Europe 3 years in a row, which was huge for PSG, and that was the first one. So we beat Real Madrid in the quarterfinal. We lose 2-1 the first game in the Bernabeu, and then on the return, we end. I think we lose 3-1 maybe. The return we end up winning it 4-1. And like we go 3-0 up, and then they score back, so it's supposed to go into extra time, and Comboire goes and scores the winning goal at the 90th plus 5 minutes or something. So like, you know, crazy moments like this. And yeah, it's for people who have been following the club for a while, it's really like, you know, big moments that happen and that created a generation of supporters as well.
true, true, true. So I've supported PSG since 2012. You could
Yeah,
say you
you're
could
a new
say
one, right?
yeah, because I'm also young, so like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
will always support the club at one time. You could
yeah,
maybe call me. I came from Zlatan Ibrahimovic because I'm
yeah,
Swedish,
yeah,
so he was like influential. But I'm also a bit connected to the city. I'm half Algerian, and you know there are a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of Algerians
yeah,
in France and Paris. And
yeah.
my favorite moment, I would say, is the battle at the bridge. Where do
Mm.
you put that in your list?
Yeah, man, that was a good one as well. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I think like yeah, it was like a big moment, but it feels like at that particular moment, like these particular teams, they had the makings of going further, and I kind of look back on it as a little bit of like, you know, that team should have been doing more ultimately. And I
Yeah,
think that particular game, like for the drama of it, and like for the player and the Zlatan being sent off, and the header in extra time, and like the drama was crazy, but I kind of like regret that this team didn't go a little bit further after, you know.
Why do
It's
you
like
think it was?
that semi-final against Man City that we play in this era. It's like we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot and don't really
Yeah.
go all the way when like really we could have, you know, already.
What would you say, like, if you call it the Ibra era or something between
Yeah,
2012 until 2016? So basically, before Neymar and Mbappe joined,
yeah.
why couldn't we get over that quarterfinal hurdle? Would you say?
Yeah, it's really hard. I think it takes time, it takes experience. I think like every year we had like, you know, little stuff that were holding us back. So like players getting injured, Ibra being suspended after his red card. So there was always a little bit of something. And then yeah, the Man City one is really on us and on Laurent Blanc just like messing up his approach tactically.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think it's it takes a while. It's a long time, and like I think it's no coincidence that like Chelsea took them 10 years, Man City took them 10 plus years, us it took us 10 plus years. It's like you need to establish yourself, you need to get respected, you need to get used to playing those big games, and yeah, like you need to have that little bit of luck of like stuff breaking your way and going through. Like last year, like you know,
Exactly.
we flip the coin on the penalty shootout in Anfield, and it goes our way, and like it could as easily have gone the other way, honestly. So like little stuff like this, it's really hard to predict. So yeah.
So then we bought Neymar and Mbappe. And
Yeah.
how did you feel? Was that the biggest like transfer PSG history, hype wise?
Yeah, the hype was insane. I mean, like Neymar was earth-shattering, honestly. Ibra was huge in its day. I remember like the picture of Ibra, getting presented and the photo next to the Eiffel Tower was like super iconic. And like Ibra, like I don't like for me, like I don't think he was ever like the best player in the world, but there's something really special and unique about him. And like you're getting that, and you're getting something that like no one else will get.
Yeah.
And so that was a big one. But yeah, Neymar, like fresh off the remontada, we like pay like 200 more than 200 million for him, and he's gonna be the best player in the world. Like at that time, he's like literally like he's a year away from winning the Ballon d'Or. That was what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So that was huge. Mbappe after this, like yeah, it was super exciting, but already you could see the makings of like you already like was talking about Real Madrid. He already was talking about like wanting to do other things with his career. So it was great because he was such a talent, and it was great to get him in the team. But with Cavani, with Di Maria, with Neymar already in place, it was less obvious like how he was going to integrate and how he was going to work in the long term for me.
True. So then when Neymar and Mbappe came,
Yeah,
we obviously managed to reach our first Champions League final ever. We reached
yeah,
the first semi-final since I think 1995, somewhere there when we
yeah,
had George Weah. How do
yeah,
you look at the Mbappe era? Because we thought Neymar would, win us the Champions League, and him and
yeah.
Mbappe would help us win the champ. How do you look at their time at PSG, Neymar and Mbappe, collectively and separately? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
do
yeah.
you regard both as legends?
Um, yeah, I don't like this question of legends because I think it's like really subjective. Yeah, I think ultimately both of them are legends because of the quality of the player and what they accomplish. But honestly, like I've been prepping as well, like a video of like my all-time best 11 and so on. And in the end, like I don't think either one of them is in it. Because I think like they accomplish great stuff and they won things and they scored lots of goals and so on. But I think emotion-wise, there's players who like I connected with more. Um, so yeah, like for sure they're legend. In terms of their time in PSG in general, for me, I think less about them as player and more like through the coaches. I think like Tuchel, we were playing really well with them, and it was really interesting, like the way he was setting up the team. And I think like ultimately, I wish a little bit that we had been more patient with him. Because yeah, then after we moved into Pochettino and we moved into Galtier, and like the playing quality
Yeah.
just drops, and it's really not that enjoyable anymore. They still achieve stuff, obviously, because they're great players, but yeah,
So you think both of them are legends, but you're just saying, for example, when you built your best PSG
yeah,
11, it's more like your favorite 11 players rather than maybe the
yeah,
11.
yeah,
Would you want to give a
yeah.
little
So
bit of
like,
a spoiler, or are you gonna save that for your video?
no, it's fine.
Because I would just compare with me, because I'm like a new
Yeah.
generation. So
No, for sure. It's funny that you ask as well. I need to like find it at the same time as well. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I remember like the way I was trying to do it. I was trying to mix with players from the older eras as well.
so pre
Um,
QSI, post QSI
yeah,
combination.
which is really tough to do, honestly, because obviously like the QSA player are just like at such a higher level in general. So it's really tricky to compare the before and after, I guess. But yeah, I was trying to do this, and ultimately, like, you know, I think like for me, I remember like definitely I had Bernard Lama in goal, which
Yeah.
is already something. Yeah, I'm trying to find it at the same time, man. When I struggled with a lot was actually like in central defense, and like Thiago Silva versus like one of the oldies, like Ricardo, who was our defender in the 90s, who was like essentially like the equivalent back then of like the super dominant Brazilian defender, towering. He used to score goals on corner like crazy. And that was like the 93 era where we win a domestic title, where we go to semifinals in Europe like pretty
Yeah.
regularly. So there's stuff like this, and like, yeah, it's overall pretty tough. I think in attack, I have probably put Rai was in there for sure. And then I think on the wings, like a player like Ronaldinho, for example, like for me, like even if he wasn't at the peak of his career, he was still young. It was his first club in Europe, and it was only a couple of years. But honestly, you go back, you look at the games he played against Marseille, and the way he was just like
Yeah.
completely dominating, and he's like the style of it as well. And yeah, it brings more emotion to me in a way than what Mbappe did. So yeah.
So, what other like the QSI players, post QSI players, do you have in the 11 or you're thinking about? You said Thiago Silva, for example. Do you have
Yeah, so
maybe
I've
Thiago
got
Motta,
Marquinhos.
Verratti?
Yeah, I've got Marquinhos, I've got Hakimi, I've got Verratti, I've got Dembele now, who I think like now unquestionably like is in it. So yeah,
So,
so there's a few.
because that's a debate we often have on the channel with me and other
Mm,
PSG fans. We discuss
yeah,
Dembele, Mbappe like status at PSG because
yeah,
yes, Mbappe was here for way longer. How can I say, did more like longevity wise, top scorer of the
mm,
club, all the trophies, top scorer in Le Classique, I think top scorer in the Champions League. But you're putting Dembele there because what he did, Mbappe couldn't do. What he made you feel, Mbappe couldn't make you
yeah.
feel.
I mean, I love Dembele both as a player and a person. I think he's like, he's a generational talent, and like we're finally getting the full potential of him, which we didn't really get before. And yeah, it's true. Like he hasn't been here as long, he hasn't scored as many goals and so on, but he led us to the Champions League. And I think emotion wise, like, in the first like year and a half, the link up he had going on with Hakimi on the right, where he would dribble and so on. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I love that we're winning everything. I love winning trophy, and that's what I want. But ultimately, like, you buy tickets to see like the emotion and the art of it a little bit.
yeah,
You
yeah,
want
yeah.
to see like the moment with the crazy dribble that no one can do. And I think like, yeah, Dembele is exactly that kind of player in the end.
And he feels very Parisian. I think both him and Mbappe born in Paris. Dembele just a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
more outside.
yeah,
But Dembele always like when they talk about the Ballon d'Or, he says that's a secondary thing. The most important thing is to win the first Champions League for PSG. That was always his aim and so on. So we
yeah,
always
yeah,
put the club first. Like when you mentioned with Mbappe, already when he joined, he'd said, "Oh, I dream of joining Madrid one day." So it
yeah,
definitely felt different. You also put Hakimi there.
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
that could be because of how great he was last season and everything. But would you say that PSG historically have lacked a bit in the fullback department?
Yeah, I don't think we had, and I think, look, Hakimi is like to me the best right back and the best fullback in the world right now, like no question asked. And I don't think we ever had a player in this position who was dominating the spot as much as he does. I remember like through the 2000s, our right back was a guy called Bernard Mendy. Who used to like put crosses like literally to the opposite corner of the pitch. It's like dreadful. He's got one moment of glory, which is he got one cap with the French national team, and he actually managed to beat Roberto Carlos on speed. Like he pushes the ball and like starts running after it, and actually manages to outrun Roberto
Oh,
Carlos. which was just like a completely ridiculous moment because he was a good player, but nowhere near the same caliber.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so yeah, that gives you a sense of, Hakimi is just a different league and like there's no fighting it.
Yeah, because even like post K7, when I look back, you got Van der Wey, you got Christopher Jallet, you got Thomas Meunier, you
Yeah,
got Serge Aurier, like goodish players, but nothing
yeah,
come close to it. Who do you have at left back? Because I used to have Maxwell for a while.
yeah.
Of how good he was and out of respect,
Hmm.
even though I
I
maybe
mean,
would put
Nuno is
Nuno.
coming close.
The thing is, Nuno has so
Nuno,
much time. He will
yeah,
eventually.
yeah. I think the same. I think the same thing. Yeah, I think Maxwell for the same reason, just because like we didn't really have any like really first year talent in these positions. Um, so yeah, like the QSI players are just so much better. I think Maxwell, like I loved the player, but even when we had him, I don't think he was like top 3 in the world at left back.
Yeah,
There was the time where Marcelo was in Real Madrid, for example, like probably still had like Jordi Alba in Barcelona. So there
David
were like
Alaba in
players in the
Bayern.
world that were like better than him. But yeah, it was higher quality than what we've had in Paris. So yeah,
And last season, it was a spectacular season.
yeah,
But I want to go back to the tough part that a lot of people see. I mean, we put to the side, and
yeah,
other non-PSG fans, they don't really understand what happened.
mm,
Paris Saint Germain went from 25th place in the UEFA Champions League, finished, I believe, 16th, went on
yeah,
to win the Champions League.
yeah,
How did you feel during that period? Because I think a lot of PSG fans felt stuff. People
yeah,
felt different stuff. People blamed different people.
yeah.
Why do you think that happened? Was it Mbappe leaving? What was it?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's just one reason. I think for me, like, it's funny, but I remember like ending the season before, like the first season of Luis Enrique, thinking like, almost like we did too well in the first season. It's like in his first season, he wins everything domestically, and we go to the semi-final of the Champions League, and it's like, yeah, how are we gonna be able to like do better? Like, it's literally almost impossible to do better than this next year. And yeah, we're losing Mbappe, so like the squad has to move in different ways. We pick up a lot of new talent as well, because like ultimately, like Pacho comes in, Joao Neves comes in, we get Gvara middle of the year.
Yeah,
So there's a few players who get into the start. Doué comes in, so that's 4 players who get into the starting 11. That's a lot of change for a team, so it does take a lot of time. And Luis Enrique's football, it's not the easiest for players to get into as well. It takes them some time.
sure.
I think like for me, like the way I was looking at it, honestly, like I don't know, I was really like buying what Luis Enrique was saying, and I think like we've seen it in his first season as well, which is the first half of the season. He always, I bet we've only seen it 2 years, so it's hard to say he always, but like so far he always uses the time to try lots of different things. So
Yeah,
he plays players in different positions. He tries like different combos and different combinations and so on. So like year one, it took him a while to stumble onto Vitinha playing as a number 6, for example. The really early Luis
Barcola
Enrique,
starting over Colomwani
yeah,
and
he was
Gonçalo.
playing on the left and kind of compensating for Mbappe until Barcola landed that spot and Vitinha could like. So there's always, like the players move around and he takes some time. Last year was the same thing, like beginning of the year, like Joao Neves comes into the starting 11, but sometimes he plays as a 6, sometimes he plays like on the right, number 8, sometimes on the left, then Fabian Ruiz, and like even stuff that like the season before were settled. So like the right side between Hakimi and Dembele, and he breaks it and put Dembele in. So I'm not particularly worried because I see that it's a process, and like progressively we get better and better and better until like everything clicks, and then we go forward. And I remember as well, like the number of years that we've had where we're like completely dominant in the group phase of the Champions League, and
Yeah,
then like come March, Real Madrid wake up and we get kicked out on the first knockout rounds. So like obviously you want to do well in the first part of the season, and like we came close to not qualifying, which was a bit worrisome. But at the same time, this isn't when you win stuff, so you got to trust the process as well.
So when would you say you believed we could win the UCL? Was it that first home game versus Liverpool? Because
Um,
we played Liverpool, who were
yeah,
considered the best
yeah,
or second best after Barca, and we
yeah,
made them look like we had played Lille the week before or something, and
yeah,
we smacked Liverpool harder than that.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to pinpoint a moment. I think you go from like uh, thinking it could get better when we beat Man City to thinking like we could make a run for it when we beat Liverpool. For me, like I remember as well, like after the return game against Aston Villa, surprisingly, thinking like typically that's exactly like 5 years ago a game where we would have lost and like we would have been kicked out and we would have been ridiculous. And
Yeah,
this time, yeah, sure, we lose it, but we keep control of the game. And ultimately, like, we're not even in danger of getting to extra time. So we take the loss, but we control how much we lose by and we get through. And I think like that's a moment where I went like, yeah, something like we've got more maturity and maybe like now we've got a team that can go the whole way. Um, but yeah, I think until the end, you don't want to believe. I know, like I was watching the final, and like literally at halftime, the only thing I was thinking is like, oh my god, like I don't want to be like AC Milan against Liverpool, Like, let us not lose. Let us not lose. Don't be a PSG. No remontada,
and then when we finally did it,
Yeah,
how would you say supporting the club has been different? Obviously, it's a bit different for me because I came in at a time where we were thinking heavily about the Champions League. A lot of investment into
yeah,
the club, a lot of talent
yeah,
was brought in. So for me, it was finally that relief. I'd
yeah,
watched 14 seasons of us trying to win the UCL,
yeah.
failing every single time in embarrassing fashions, and finally doing it. Now it feels so, I don't know, it's so much relief supporting
Yeah, I
PSG.
know. I know
Even if
exactly
we
what you're
lose
saying.
a game or something, I'm like, okay, okay.
Honestly, like I can't believe like how little I cared in the end that we lost against Marseille. It's like it's almost shameful to say, because like this is supposed to be the rival, but at the same time, like yeah, like we won the Champions League, like nothing can happen to us this year. Like I really like yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think it's different for me at the same time. Like I started the channel just before the final of the Champions League. I'm like
Mm,
not because like it's like so many people were paying attention. I was like, and if I want to start it, I'm starting it now. I'm starting it
yeah,
never. So I started it then. And so all of a sudden, like I went from just being a fan to like trying to analyze things and trying to like understand the tactics and look at it a little bit more like professionally.
yeah,
So it's a very different experience from that perspective. I think in terms of the fandom, you're right. It's like such a weight lifted from our shoulders, which is funny because it was completely up to us. And now we feel like obviously like we're playing really well, so it's really enjoyable from that perspective. We'll go through like all of the injury and the troubles that we're having right now, and we'll see what happens in the second half of the season. But yeah, there's a sense of like, yeah, we don't need to overdo it. We don't need to like chase glory too hard. We don't need to overpay for players. We don't need to like stress out just because Dembele is injured.
yeah.
Things will happen. We'll win game, we lose some also along the way. But ultimately, like we're playing good football. We're winning trophies so far. So yeah, it's a good time.
And you mentioned your channel there. What
Yeah.
would you say, the main reason? Was it you wanted to share your thoughts, or was it you've always wanted to represent the club?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, like the idea, like it's been in my head for a long time, and like the first time I had the idea is like, if you remember, like I think like 3 years ago, like we take a loss against Marseille in the cup, and like I remember like the next day I was walking down the street. I live in Asia, so like walking down the street and I see a dude wearing a PSG jersey. And for me, like the day after a Marseille loss, like don't talk to me. Like I'm not in a good mood. I'm not happy. I see this guy walking with a jersey, like nothing happened, and like probably doesn't even know that we lost to our rival the day before. I'm like, really, like something needs to be done, Like, so that's when I started playing with the idea, and I think like it takes a while because like there's something a little bit intimidating about putting yourself out there on YouTube. So it took me a little while. Also, like, I think, like, I don't know for you, but like the imposter syndrome as well is there. That, like, yeah, I've been following football and PSG forever, but like, so have a lot of people. So I'll open my mouth and see if people listen. But
What's that syndrome?
like, yeah, huh?
What's that syndrome? I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
imposter syndrome.
What does it
It's
mean?
like, thinking that like you're not qualified and not relevant to be doing it.
Mm,
And I think, yeah, in this case, like, I was never an ultra, for example. I went to Parc des Princes plenty of time, but I was never like, I was like, there's lots of people who are bigger fans of the club than me and who've been following it for longer or like deeper and so on. But yeah, like, I'll do it. I'll see what happens. I'm having fun with it, honestly, and like the community is so awesome, honestly. I think like PSG fans, especially like English speaking, they're super desperate for like good content and for people to
yeah,
be talking about the club, and like to share the passion, because yeah, like we're all living it, and you want to be sharing with other people.
100%. I started. So I started the PSGINT brand around 2018 on
Yeah.
Instagram, but this YouTube channel existed, I think, around since Messi joined, because
Mm.
I'd had different channels. You
Yeah.
got copyrights, I had problems, and then when Messi came, a bit like you, I was like, if there's a time I'm gonna go for the third time try, it's not with the Messi fans. Maybe that can help. It didn't do that much. Um, and then I've
Well.
pushed for it. And the main reason I wanted to do it was I thought I saw it as a job opportunity, as something I can go full in, and it becomes me.
Mm.
But also, I didn't think PSG was represented that well,
Mm. Yeah,
especially
100%.
the English one. I'm someone, if I
Yeah.
compare, yeah, yeah,
No, I was gonna say, like, for me, yeah, it's also something that like breaks my heart a little bit. It's like, all of the people who say like, oh, PSG is just like plastic club with no history and like just like Qatar money and buying your way into trophies and so on. And like, honestly, like, yeah, like the history is so much deeper than this. Like, we're a club with like 50 years history. Like, in the 90s, we were literally like as close to on top of Europe as we've ever been.
yeah,
We've had like great players, and like, from the beginning of the Safet Suzic to like the Wea of the time, Rai, Ronaldinho, like really throughout history, there's always been great players in Paris, and there's always been like a very special DNA as well. We're a club that like can really deliver like moments of brilliance like few can do, but also can fuck up in the biggest way. And so there's always like, an element of drama and something unexpected happening. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but like, yeah, I don't think there's many clubs in the world which have the same degree of drama going on around it.
no,
It makes it
absolutely.
very unique, I think.
And even with the new ownership and everything,
Yeah.
I still don't think we've lost, as you said, the DNA of the club. We still feel like a Parisian club. When you
Mm,
see PSG with Jordan jerseys,
mm,
I mean, that's a Paris thing. It's the
mm.
designer city of the world.
Yeah.
Because you look at some clubs that have ownerships, they become a little bit soulless. If you look at the Premier League clubs, they get these American owners, or even Chelsea with Abrahamovich, and it becomes more of a business.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
connection between the fans and the club isn't there. For
Mm.
example, like with the Ultras and PSG, I mean, they're what Roman Mobile is sending
Mm.
messages to PSG, PSG sending messages back to him. You
Mm.
don't see this, for example, in the Premier League and all of that.
Yeah.
So I still think,
Yeah.
despite everything that's happened, I still feel like this club represents Paris
Mm.
in a
Yeah,
great
and
way.
it's funny as well, because like, we talk about like the craziness of PSG signing Neymar and signing Zlatan and signing Mbappe. But yeah, we've always been a club of stars. Like, literally,
Yeah,
PSG was founded by like jet set people in Paris, like actors and fashion people and so on. Like, this, it's always been like, it's always had that element of like, yeah, a fancy, like a little like fancy VIP club, but like with a real like glitz to it and a little bit of like spotlight to it.
yeah,
So that hasn't changed. And yeah, I think like QSI, they've been really like smart in terms of how they've dealt with the fans and the ultras, because going like when QSI buys PSG, we don't have ultras in the park anymore. There's been like terrible stuff happening to the ultras the years before, to the point where like all of the ultras associations have to get disbanded. People cannot buy season tickets in the stands together anymore. It's random placements. And so like Colony Capital before, and like, you know, we can talk about why and how and like who's to blame, but like they essentially had to destroy the ultra culture in the Parc des Princes before they sold it to QSI. And QSI was, yeah, like I think managed to bring stuff back together in a way that like is pretty authentic to the historical culture of the ultras and the history of the club.
Yeah.
And yes, they haven't, like in the UK, like all of the historic ultras, they've been pushed out of the stand just by rising prices, and the owners like don't really care about that. It's like, I think it's really sad, honestly.
So where's it obviously to build a brand new stadium? What
Yeah,
do you think about it? You're someone that has gone to the park, that live close to
yeah,
the park.
yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what, like actually, so like this afternoon, I was watching the Madrid game, the Atletico versus Real, and I was like looking at the Atletico stadium. And I'm like, yeah, like man, like that looks legit. If you compare to I love the park, but like, yeah, it looks old. Like even when you look at it on TV, it looks old. And I feel really bad for saying it because it is like a super special place. And I can tell you, like to this day, I remember exactly like the smell and the sound and the light when I entered the park, like in '93 for my first game. You know, there's something like it's a life memory. Mostly at this point, like I do think we need like either to like do major work on the park or build a new stadium. What worries me is that the places that we're looking at are
Yeah.
really, really, really far. And honestly, like I think we'll miss out on a lot of things. I know like the club has been doing a lot of PR on like how it's actually not that far. There's public transport, you can ride a car, and so on. But yeah, like the game against Auxerre, at one point, like the camera pans out and you see the Eiffel Tower at the back, and I think like it's, you know, it's something really iconic. And sure, we'll have a beautiful stadium, but yeah, I think a club is also like tied to where it is geographically.
Yeah.
Like you don't see Arsenal when they move stadiums, they move like 3 blocks over. Man City, Man United, they're rebuilding in the same place. Like AC Milan and Inter, they're in the same street. Like all of the big clubs, like Real Madrid, they rebuild their stadium. So did Barcelona. There's not Everyone wants bigger stadium and everyone wants new stadium, but there's not that many examples of clubs moving really far from where they're at.
True.
And I think it's, you know, it's part of the history. So that's the part I'm, yeah, not so happy with.
Yeah, because you live there. I mean, I think
Yeah,
Poissy it's called, and
yeah,
something with M as well. They're
yeah.
looking at two different
Massy,
destinations.
Massy and
So,
Poissy.
and obviously a lot of that has to do with, Paris is a very old city,
Yeah,
which is very compact. So it's
yeah,
basically impossible to find that amount of space to build a
yeah,
brand new stadium in.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, I think if you really wanted to, you could, and I think that's where I blame like the city of Paris itself. I think like, you know, the negotiations have been broken, and also like, you know, I think everyone has some blame to it. But I don't understand how the city of Paris can look at PSG and go like, yeah, we don't care. Like you can go to Poissy or
yeah,
Massy, and we're not even gonna make an effort. Like, you know, carve out part of the Bois de Boulogne next to it, which is a major park. You can like build a stadium there and like make up the space on where the Parc des Princes is. You could look at destroying and rebuilding like to the south of Paris. Like there's Stade Charletti where Paris FC used to play last season, which is an old stadium, like with the space to build a new one, obviously. So there's options. We just build a new basketball arena to the north of Paris, and like, you know, it's obviously smaller than a football stadium, but it's
yeah.
decent. Like it's just, yeah, it takes up space. So, you know, if people really want to, I think they can figure it out. I really hope, like, because PSG seems to be taking their time with this one. So I do hope that in the end, like by some miracle, like people get back around the table and find a solution. But yeah, like we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Because I've been following the situation, and as you
Mm.
said, I think it's so it doesn't make sense from the city council of Paris,
Yeah,
mainly Anna Hidalgo,
yeah,
because basically what it is, PSG wants to buy the park.
yeah,
because they want to do a full big renovation, taking it from approximately 48K to maybe up to
Mm.
60K.
Yeah.
But they don't want to sell it because they say it's part of, like, it's a Paris thing. And then they also bring up stuff like PSG, it would then be owned by Qatar. But the thing is, if PSG would sell the club, the stadium would stay with the club. He
Mm.
wouldn't own it. He owns it through PSG.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've
So it's
never
a bit broken.
understood.
At the
They would
same
lose so
time,
much money as well. The park would have no
yeah,
interest.
it's really hard though to like know what's really like going on behind the scenes, because at the same time, PSG only made an offer. It was like for Parc des Princes. It was like they wanted to pay, I don't remember, but like 10 million for it, or like
Yeah.
something ridiculously low. So I think like to some extent, if PSG put a real offer on the table, like the answer might get different, because the Paris city as well is like running out of money. So I do
Yeah.
believe like at some point they'd be happy to get the cash. At the same time, like I was reading some things that Parc des Princes in general, like like concrete doesn't last forever. Over time, it degrades and so on. And Parc des Princes is completely made out of concrete. And so apparently, like in the next like 10, 20 years, it's essentially gonna have to be almost entirely rebuilt.
Mm,
Um, so why would the town like not want to sell this, because they're not going to be able to fund this kind of reparation anyway.
sure.
So it's like stuff like this really makes me wonder what's actually like really going on behind the scene. I think also, like, to be fair, like I think Qatar would rather like build a much bigger stadium with the things around it, the hotels, the
Exactly.
casinos and whatever, and like the shopping malls, rather than just because Parc des Princes, you cannot do that much to it in the end.
True.
It's very, very constrained. So yeah,
So do you have, as you said, a little bit of hope? Either maybe a miracle happens around the park, or as
yeah,
you said, they can maybe find a better location. Because I
yeah,
mean, Paris PSG is one of the attractions now in Paris.
yeah.
People used to go to Paris for the Eiffel Tower, for the
Mm.
Louvre. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people go to Paris for PSG.
Yeah,
We,
yeah,
we
for sure. And I mean, like, yeah, tourists are not going to go out of their way to spend 1 hour in public transport to go to like the far suburbs of Paris just to see a football game. Especially, if your family, you're with kids or something,
yeah,
the game ends, it's like 10:30 p.m. If you've got an hour of transport to get back, like, people are just like, they're not going to do it in the middle of the week. Like, people have lives. So yeah. And I think, if like the thing is as well, like a stadium, it's for the next like 50 years. And so right now we're on top of Europe, we've got the best team in the world, and yeah, like people will fight over each other to get into the stadium. But what happens in 10 years or in 20 years, where like ownership might have changed, maybe we're not so hot anymore, and then like we've got a huge stadium far away from the center, and like what do we do with it? If
yeah,
you look
yeah,
at
yeah,
Lyon, for example, like they built a beautiful stadium on the outskirts of the city, but now like that higher level of the stadium, basically like half of the game it's closed off because they're not filling it, and it's a big club in France. So yeah, like you got to wonder.
true. The thing is, though, we have been averaging maximum capacity for
Yeah,
as many seasons as I can remember, especially in the Champions League.
mm.
So maybe that's where they're looking at it. Do
Yeah.
you do you think there are reasons to not think about moving stadium? Like, do you think maybe it's for other reasons they want to move stadium or something, or do you think they have valid reasons for wanting to move?
No, I think
Yeah,
they completely have valid reasons, and I think, look, like even if we were to stay, like the Parc des Princes would need major, major, major work, and not just like not just putting in more seats, but yes, the club needs more space, needs to have like diversify its revenue, so have different activities going on. We need more corporate boxes, and so I mean that's the way football works. Like,
yeah,
so we need that. I think it's amazing how much we're actually managing to do with Parc des Princes. And then you look, like, I've been to the Bernabeu before like all of the transformation, and honestly even before, like, it was really impressive if you compare to Parc des Princes. Like the atmosphere and the fan absolutely suck, but the stadium is pretty awesome. And you see the stadium in Munich. You see like what Barcelona is going to be doing with Camp Nou. It's like, it's technologically advanced. There's like Wi-Fi everywhere. All of the infrastructure at top notch. There's like different experiences for the
Yeah.
fans. It's like I'm not a fan of like the US model of like going to the stadium to spend half a day in a mall and getting your hot dog and having to buy 12 different things before you get to your seat. But the reality is that this is what's coming to to everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is.
So going into this season, we obviously reached the
Yeah,
Champions League semi-final two seasons ago.
yeah,
Then we won the Champions League. We reached the Club World Cup final as well.
yeah,
I'm I'm seeing a potential dynasty for
yeah.
Paris Saint Germain. We had the second youngest Champions League winning side ever after Ajax in the 90s as well, which
Mm,
means we're only going to get better. Usually, when you look at City when they won, when Madrid three-peated it, they had an old team at their absolute peak, final
mm.
years, winning the trophies. What can this PSG team achieve in this like upcoming decade to 2030, let's say?
I think
Uh,
like yeah, I completely I love what you're saying. The word dynasty is just like such a good one for it. I do think we can be like the dominant team for the next like 5 years, easy 5 to 10 years. Um, I think for me like the comparison that I like, and it's not so much like in terms of what we can achieve, but in terms of the football that we play. Uh, it really makes me look back to the Barca of Pep Guardiola
yeah,
in the way we've got such a strong like identified way of playing that is so dominant and so unique and so like different from what everyone else is doing, and I think like that can propel us to continued success. I don't know if we're going to win the Champions League every year, like you pick up loss and sometimes like things don't click and you have bad luck, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with us winning like one or two or three more over the next like 5 to 7 years, and I think this year like we could very well go back to back, like honestly, like if we manage to move past all of the physical trouble and get people into like a fitness level, pick up maybe like a recruit or two in the winter mercato, and we're off to the races. Because like honestly, like all of the other teams, like no one is massively impressing me either. Real Madrid, like they took a big loss yesterday.
yeah.
Liverpool lost as well. Man City, like slowly coming together, but it's not what it used to be. Bayern Munich is strong, but we could definitely take them. So at the end of this, like it's pretty open. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because I always used to like when we get that first UCL, because the first UCL, it's not the Champions League that was so difficult. It was the pressure with
yeah.
that first UCL. The first time in anything is always the hardest. You don't know how to do it because you have never done it before. People that were here before you didn't do it before. But now all of that is off. And
We pop the
I saw
ketchup
that
bottle, man. We're good. We're good. We pop the ketchup bottle. So like now it's all free flowing. We're all gonna be good. We're gonna get 5 in a row. I can feel it.
because at the Club World Cup, that's where I saw like PSG with no pressure. We didn't.
That
We,
was
in the UCL, we were a bit tactical, a bit defensive, a bit conservative, a bit smart. In the Club World Cup, we just let's see how great we are, and we smacked it. We smacked Madrid, smacked Bayern, smacked
mm,
into Miami,
mm.
and then in the final, maybe we were a bit too arrogant. I think the PSG players probably didn't rate Chelsea. They probably rated Madrid and Bayern higher and saw
Yeah,
them as tougher games.
yeah.
And
I like for me, I look at it a little bit differently, and it's funny because like my post game analysis of the Chelsea game, I got assaulted in the comments by Chelsea fans who like were saying we were arrogant and full of ourselves, and that they had destroyed us forever and completely cracked the code. So it took me some time to like tell them to just shut up and sit down. But yeah, I think for me, like the way I look at it is that the UCL last season, we only played English team. If you think about it, we went from like Liverpool to Aston Villa to Arsenal, and I think like the way we play football, English teams are probably going to be the toughest opponents that we can face in
yeah,
general for the physicality, for the speed, for like the direct play
pressing,
and so on.
running.
I think in general, and one of the recent interviews of Luis Enrique, or like Luis Campos actually, he went on French radio, And he said like they brought on Zabarni just because they realized that against English teams, specifically against English teams, they need like more strength and more height and like kind of a big dude who can like muscle his way through it. And I think once we play against Inter, even if Inter was super tired, we beat them like 5-0. We play Real Madrid, we beat them 4-0. We played Atletico, we beat them as well. Like I don't remember 3-0 or something. We played Bayern Munich, and that was a really tough one as well. But we still we beat them 2-0, playing 9 against 11 at the end. So I do think for us, like English teams are going to be the toughest opponents. And I think against other teams in Europe, I'm less worried. I think the Barca game this week actually is going to be super fascinating for this. Even with all of the players injured, we're gonna figure out something there.
Yeah, how do you feel? Are you confident? I'm just weird. Like people told me, "What's your prediction? How do you feel?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. We're missing so many. Barca are missing so many players as well. And it's a group stage game. We thought this would be last season's Champions League final. Could have been one of the greatest Champions League finals of all time. So I don't know.
I like the one we had, but no, I think I'm the same. Like I don't really know what to expect exactly. Like I don't know. I haven't done my prediction yet. I think it's gonna be a tough one. I do think I think even with all of the players injured, I do think we've got enough quality to win it. We'll have to see. I need to see which ones of our midfielders are going to be available. Because I think if Vitinha isn't playing, if Joao Neves isn't playing, that changes the game to me. If both of them, I think Fabian Ruiz is going to be there, but those other two, it makes a big difference. But in defense, I think even without Marquinhos, our defense is better than them. They don't have the new goalkeeper, so even if Chevalier has been, hit and miss, I think we don't we're probably on the same level or better. And I think in attack, I don't know. We'll see if Yamal is actually back and if he can actually play well or not. But Rafinha is not going to be there. Fermin is not going to be there. So they're also missing players. So yeah, there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to pick up something over there.
Yeah, and I think even for both teams, there isn't that much to lose. It's only a group stage game. Both of us won our first game.
Yeah.
If we lose, it's just a group stage game. It's the second game.
And for us, it's not even a group stage game. It's our away game against the first tier of teams. So it's going to be our hardest game in the whole group phase.
Yeah.
So if we have to lose one game, we can lose this one, and it's really it's not going to make a big difference at the end of days. So yeah, I think I hope we win it. Obviously, I think we've got we could and we have what it takes, and I think I found it super telling as well. I don't know how you looked at this, but looking at PSG play against Lens and then PSG play against Atalanta, and it's a different team all of a sudden. And I think the players this season, especially, they're really, really, really good at giving exactly what they need to do to win the game. And then the Champions League is when they go all out and they make it happen, and that's when you really see PSG on the pitch. Because Lens, honestly, we took the win, but it wasn't a good game for us. And then 3 days later, we put 4 past Atalanta, and okay, we're back.
No, we definitely have gotten better at turning that thing from Ligue 1 to Champions League. We know how to turn it. There used to be a narrative against PSG that why we didn't win a Champions League is because we played in Ligue 1. So they said Ligue 1 is so weak that when we played the UCL, it's such a big. Now they've changed it. Now that we won the UCL, now they say, oh, you can rest in the league. And then
I've seen that as well. League. It made me giggle a little bit. All of once again, all of the Chelsea fans who were oh no, PSG wasn't tired because they play in Ligue 1, and so they can rest players and so on, and conveniently forgetting that for them 3/4 of their squad didn't even play in the Conference League until the final. So thanks guys, but look at your own stuff before you talk. I don't think it's Ligue 1 in itself. I think it's more the way we approach it, because I do think it's right that the past season, sometimes you could see in the Champions League games that it would take us some time to adjust to the intensity of it. And I think Luis Enrique has made a big difference in taking Ligue 1 game very seriously.
Yep.
and really dominating them in a way that really we hadn't seen since Laurent Blanc. And so I do think it makes a difference. I think like, yeah, we're getting better at tuning our effort and just giving what we need. But also like, we're not dropping points. I mean, we almost went unbeaten last season.
Yeah.
It's really saying something, you know, like even in Ligue 1, even if the league is way like smaller than us, yeah, like it's major performance.
Yeah. Plus, Ligue 1 hasn't been this good. I mean, since I've watched.
Mm.
The investments is more
Yeah,
Marseille. This is the strongest Marseille have been maybe since they had
yeah.
PSG back
Mm.
like 2013, 2014, Dimitri Payet and so on.
Mm.
So the competition is the I think the biggest thing is the system. So
Yeah.
before we used to rely on individual talents, individual ability, Neymar, Carras this game, Mbappe. Now in Ligue 1, it's the system. So
Mm.
even if you take out Dembele and put a Mayulu, PSG
Mm.
will still play good because it's the same system. But
Mm.
then when it comes to the UCL, obviously that's where it's still the system, that's the foundation. But then it's the individual ability in moments that
Mm.
takes over the games and so on. You
Yeah,
mentioned before back
100%.
to back. For me, that's it's very important that we go for it.
Mm.
Luis Enrique has mentioned back to back. Ashraf Hakimi has mentioned it. We've tasted the blood, and it feels good. It
Yeah,
feels good.
no, like definitely, man. I mean, if we can make it, like, I think everyone wants to go for it. And I think, you know, the players and the staff, they're professional and like they've got victory in their blood, so they want it. Um, I think like the hard part and like where I try to be like balanced and hold myself back is that, yeah, I think like there's little bits of luck mixed in that you
Yeah,
really can't control. I think the way I look at Paris right now, like no question, I think we're in the top four teams in the world. I think it's us, Barcelona, Liverpool, and Bayern Munich. And so ultimately, like, you know, maybe we face Bayern Munich this year in the quarterfinal, and it's a time where like Vitinha is injured or he's picked up 2 yellow cards in the games before,
yeah,
and you know we lose by 1 goal or whatever. Like the difference is so tiny. It's so tiny. Even when we look so dominant, you know, it's yes, things can happen. So it's more about like I really hope we win it. I just want like I want us to like keep playing well, keep giving it our all. If the stars don't line up and like we lose, but we've given it our all and we can be proud of what we've
yeah,
put, like yes, so be it. We'll come back the year after. It's one of the things that actually for me, like it's one of the things that I like the most about Luis Enrique, and I don't think people actually talk a lot about a lot. Is that as much as he talks about winning all the time and he loves winnings and he always says that we're going to win and so on, he's made it normal for us to lose again. You know, I think before him, like every time you'd lose a game in Paris, like the drama would start and it's like, oh, Paris, are they not as good? And like they're getting kicked out of the Champions League in ridiculous fashion again. Like the way like when we lost against Dortmund, when like, you know, everyone was seeing themselves in the final already, and we didn't qualify, and like yeah, it was like in the end very normal. We didn't take a ridiculous defeat, we just lost, and like we'll be back next year and we'll be better, and like life goes on, you know, in a way. So
yeah.
we like by having less drama around the defeat, we can be more focused on winning and get better at
True.
that, which I think has made a big difference.
It was also before, like if you say Neymar and Mbappe, they were like
Mm.
investments. Neymar was obviously
Mm.
getting older, getting more injury prone, and every year we felt this is the year, and we
Mm.
were unsure if we were going to be better the year after. Now we can clearly see this. Oh, we don't win it this year, we win it next year. We don't win it this year, we at least go deep. We at least go
Mm.
deep. Is that consistency? How do you think about like we have such a young team and so on? Do you think we should continue signing young players so that we're just always getting better, or do you think maybe we should go back to bling bling? Just one bling bling. Just one.
Yeah, I mean, one like I like no, definitely not go back to bling bling. I think like that's an era that's gone, but and I don't think we'll go back to that. At the same time, like it kind of makes me giggle when people say like, "Oh, there's no stars in Paris anymore," because like literally we've got the Ballon d'Or in our team right now, and like he's a huge star. He's a great guy, but he's a huge
Yeah,
star.
yeah,
Hakimi is like he's a massive star, you know, like all over the world, like in Africa, in Spain, and so on. Is absolutely massive. We've got like Donnarumma last year is like a huge character as well. So like we do
Vitinha
have those
finished third.
players. Yeah, and like Vitinha is third in the Ballon d'Or. So we do have those players who are like world class and like yes, star level. It's just we don't have the drama that goes with it anymore. So yeah, I think like I think we'll stick with it, and like that's just the way we do things now, of like bringing in new talent and developing them. And I think that's the way Luis Enrique sees football. That's what Luis Campos does best. And I think with the evolution of the rules of financial fair play as well. Now like everything is about like how much salary you've got, and so having the younger players, it really like it's a better way of dealing with this, and I think it's a pretty natural evolution as a result. So we'll see, but yeah, anticipate. I think like where we need to be careful is that, and like for me, that's one of the things where I wasn't really a fan of Donnarumma moving out, is that we still do need people who have experience and
Yeah.
can like take leadership roles. And it's fine because like we've got Dembele, we've got Hakimi, we do have like Vitinha now. He's been around for years. So we do have players who are younger, but yeah, I don't want us to be all 19-year-old who are like playing in the Champions League for the first time and don't have like the maturity and the strength to go through it.
And last but not least, when you go into January, because that's
Mm,
become a tradition now under Luis Enrique, Moscardo,
yeah.
Beraldo in the first January, Khvicha, Kvaratskhelia last January. And once again, reports are circulating because it feels like we do business in the summer, but we leave a little bit, see how the season goes, and then we go back in January. Do you feel we need to strengthen the squad?
It's such a loaded question because like the fan in me says yes because I do love signings and I love my mercatos and I love seeing new people arrive. At the same time, like I really can't blame like the way they've been doing things. It's like I find it actually awesome to have a club who like actually works in a pretty smart way of like, hey, we're gonna be smart about bringing exactly what we need. We're gonna identify the players that we want. We're not gonna overpay them.
Yeah,
We're gonna want them to really want to come. And like we wanted, and by any account, like we made an offer for Mastantuano. He ended up wanting to go to Real Madrid. His loss. That doesn't mean we should turn around and spend 70 million to get Akliush. He's a good player, but yeah, like we're not gonna do it anymore. So yeah, I do think like everyone, I do think we can probably use one or two players more in the squad, give it a bit of depth. But I also recognize that it's really so tricky. It's like player in PSG, like man, we're the best team in the world right now, so it's high level. There's not really that
yeah,
many players who can fit in, and at the same time, like yeah, sure, like we should have a substitute for Hakimi and or whatever, but like what kind of quality player is going to want to come when he's probably going to play 10 games and be at the back of like the best player in his position?
true.
It's not that easy to find and convince the players. So it's a tough situation. I do think, yeah, in the end, like yeah, I think one or two players would probably be great, but I do think like we've got the squad that we need, and I think like if we're bringing anyone, like I'd also be like almost more curious about what are we doing with Ramos, what are we doing with Kangin Lee, what are we doing with those players who like, as much as I like them for different reasons, like they don't seem to be the best we can get for their place.
Yeah,
So yeah,
all right, great to hear.
yeah,
Red and blue. It's been
Mhm.
a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
I want
Same,
every
man. Thanks
single
so much.
person. Yeah, and I want every single person that has been watching the stream to at least check the channel out, go through the videos. We need more Paris Saint Germain support, especially in English, representing this club. A lot of people, when they see me, they say, "Oh, they're PSG fans," and then I say, "Go to the French one, go to
Mm.
Immigré Parisien, go to
Yeah.
other people. There are so many, but it's just the English market is so weak, and yeah,
Mm.
we're trying our best to fill the void." Great talking to you. I mean, definitely a different perspective.
Mm.
You're a true Parisian, vrai Parisien, as they
Yeah.
say. You've been there since a long time ago, so it's definitely a different perspective talking to. And Yeah,
Yeah,
I
thanks,
would
man.
love.
I really enjoyed the chat as well. So like, let's stay in touch. I think for me, like, yeah, just to give people a sense, like I try to put out a video every day.
Mhm.
Typically, like I try to do one topic every day. So I do game preview and game analysis, but I also try to do, yeah, like older games, bring in a bit of history, and like talk about every facet of the club as well. So I did like one video yet on the women's section. I try to do videos that actually work really well on some of the youngsters coming up. So we've seen them come up this weekend.
Yeah,
If you start looking at my stuff, go for I've got a video on Engine 2 and I've got one on Jean Jal, who both
yeah.
started in their first Ligue 1 game this weekend. And I think it's if we can share information and talk more about PSG, like, yeah, let's just make it happen.
100%. 100%.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully everyone has enjoyed this podcast. As I mentioned, the link will be down below to check out Red and Blue's YouTube channel. That's been it from your boy PSGINT. And as usual, allez, allez, allez Paris.